3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pater Familias, coming to you from Fairhope, Alabama.
I'm Todd Sylvester.
I'm Stefan Sylvester.
This is the green version of the podcast.
We did not plan this.
People are going to think, if they just do the audio version, they're going to think we're talking about money.
No, or something else. But we're just both wearing green shirts.
And we didn't plan that.
Nope, just kind of happened.
Because it's not the same shade of green. It's not like we're hashtag twinning or anything.
No, we're not
like
doing that.
Do you know any father and sons that like dress the same purposefully? Not like costume stuff. I mean, they actually dress the same.
No. Okay. I know that.
Good, because it's healthy not to do that.
The Gronkowski families all walk around, because, Gronkowski, whatever his name is, Rob Gronkowski, the tight end for the Patriots.
Yeah. He
has a bunch of brothers and his dad, and they're all about the same size. They all look like football players.
Come on.
So they all walk around with their shirts off all the time. Or at least, according to the pictures that I saw in this news article, that happens a lot. Because there were a bunch of pictures of their entire family shirtless.
And can they really pull it off?
Well, yeah, they're all huge.
But I mean, huge as in like...
Huge as in muscular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they all look like football players.
Even the dad?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
That's
I think
pretty cool.
He played too.
If I was in better shape, I would probably walk around without my shirt on more.
I think I would too, but I'm also kind of at that point in my life where I've just sort of given up. Like, man, it would sure be nice to have a six-pack.
Not even 30.
It would sure be nice to have that vein running up my bicep.
You
but
can't give up.
I also really want this piece of pizza.
Come on.
And maybe another piece of pizza. Like, come on.
Don't give up.
I am joking. Like, I haven't given up. I still really enjoy playing sports, but I also really love food. And I can't see myself making the sacrifices necessary to get in ridiculous shape now at this point in my life. Maybe that'll change. But if I have a choice between food, sleep, or exercising, guess which two I'm choosing?
Exercising twice?
And I have accepted this fact about myself. I'm okay with it now.
Which there could be motivating factors down the road.
I mean, sure. I still love to weightlift. I still love to play basketball. I just would much rather sleep.
I don't blame you. We bailed on the gym this morning, Mom.
Yeah. Maybe when the kids are a little bit older and I don't have to get up so often during the night.
Yeah. Fair.
Maybe I'll go back to the gym.
That's fair. Ready for the main thing?
I am.
Let's do this. Let's do this thing.
It's the main thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there are many people in everyone's life who have been sort of in a mentor capacity, either directly, where they've directly known the person and influenced them, or by virtue of what they wrote, said, or did, they have caused any particular person to move along the path of becoming who they are. So
kind of like an Instagram story?
No, not at all like that. No, why? How do you even know what that is? You don't have an Instagram.
Because they're the influencers.
No, I'm talking about influencers in terms of how people help you become the person that you are, right? So you and I are old enough now to we probably have lots of these. And yes. I wanted to talk about the people that have influenced us in a profound way.
Okay.
And so I wanted to do it in a couple different ways. So first of all, somebody who for me was a profound influence on my faith and the things that I believe, who I've never met. I've only read things that he wrote. I've only read things that he wrote.
All
so
right, give it to me.
When I was in college taking Catholic studies classes, which were awesome, by the way, at the University of St. Thomas, shout out to the Tommies.
Woo!
Apparently our football team is really good again.
Nice.
Which is great. It's like,
do you have anyone to play? Is there anyone in the stadium?
Yeah, actually, I guess they were good last year. I don't know about this year. Is D3 even happening? Who knows? But anyway, when I was taking these classes, I started to read the writings of, now, is he a Saint John Henry Newman? Did that happen?
Yes.
Yeah, so I started to read his writings, and it was his book where it was essays about something. The title is escaping me right now. I can look it up in a second. But he was writing this book while he was going through his conversion process. Wow. So he wrote the first half of the book, and then he wrote the second half of the book. It's like essays on doctrine or something like that. Right. And you can tell halfway through the book that his perspective has changed. Mm-hmm. And it's basically an argument from authority for the Catholic Church. Yeah. And he was writing it initially as an Anglican bishop, which is wild. And he ended up becoming this profound Catholic thinker, and I think eventually he'll be a doctor of the church.
That's awesome.
So he profoundly influenced me because for the first time I was reading someone's personal account who was very smart and a little bit more accessible than reading somebody like Thomas Aquinas or Augustine, because he lived in the 18th century.
Right.
So, or 19th century, excuse me. So reading his writings and hearing this very clear argument about why you can trace the authority of any particular teaching back to the person who was given the authority, and what that means for example, the church fathers, the early people in the church who had this authority to write about it, and what the church taught and what we should do and believe, and why it's actually a good thing to go back and check your sources with all this stuff. Yeah. He had this incredible thesis of why that matters, and why, if you are reading the church fathers correctly, it actually means that you should be Catholic. And he was a really influential Anglican bishop, and it was a huge scandal in the Anglican church when he defected, is what they would say, but right. he converted to Catholicism.
And he had to take so much from all of his contemporaries. Yeah. Negatively. Because even the Catholics didn't welcome him with open arms, from what I understand. They
did not. And he lived a lot of his life sort of in exile from both camps, because nobody really knew what to do with him. But he was a brilliant, brilliant guy. Yeah. Man. Reading his writing is just incredible.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful.
So he was a profound influence on me.
It's funny, you and I cut from the same cloth, because it just seems like sometimes books have that effect on us. Yeah. I was discerning the Franciscans when I was 18, 19 years old, and I went down to spend a weekend at the friary with these Franciscans, and they were so chill and prayerful and doing all this kind of stuff that they said, all right, for the next 3 hours, you can do some spiritual reading. And I said, well, I didn't bring anything for spiritual reading. And they said, oh, no, we got a library. So I go in, very humble library, a couple bookcases, and I go in there, and I'm looking, and then one book catches my eye. It's A Man for Others. And I grab it, and it's on the life of St. Maximilian Kolbe. And I was still fairly new, really, to the church. I had only kind of had my reversion for about a year and a half. And for me, when you said saints, I was thinking statues, stained glass, maybe paintings would be the most modern form of a saint. Right. And here I'm going through, and there's photographs of St. Maximilian Kolbe, because he died in Auschwitz during World War II.
And he was very distinctive looking.
So I sat down and I read the entirety of that book, just cover to cover, and finished it. And then the dinner bell rang. Bless you.
Excuse
me. Dinner bell
Sorry,
rang,
everybody.
and I went, and I was like, oh my Lord, that was the most incredible thing. And I started talking about Maximilian Kolbe. And years later now, fast forward to the radio show that I co-host in the mornings on Catholic radio, we have a first-class relic of St. Maximilian Kolbe sitting in there in the studio.
That's cool.
And a lot of people were like, wait, how'd you get a first-class relic? Because I thought he was, he died in Auschwitz, and then they put him in the crematory. And I said, well, the brothers knew how holy he was, especially near the end of his life, and they always saved his hair when they would give him haircuts or he'd trim his beard.
That is wild.
So... yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
And if you're not Catholic and you get weirded out by this kind of stuff, just Google it and you can check it out.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's religious influencers that have had profound effects on you and I. So
what about fashion? Do you want to go fashion?
I don't want to go fashion. I'm a dude. I pretty much know what things I like to wear.
So I wear skinny jeans because...
will you please leave me alone with the skinny jeans?
I follow these people on Instagram.
Get out of here. All right. I'm not gonna swear on the podcast, but
it's family friendly.
I wear skinny jeans and boots when I go play music,
and you look good.
And that is my style.
Yeah.
It has been for years. I don't know why this is still such a difficult thing for everyone to accept.
It just sounds funny.
It does.
Skinny jeans sounds funny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a stigma that one day will go away.
Okay,
and people
maybe.
will be able to wear their skinny jeans in peace.
And then they'll be fine with it. Okay.
So
what's
anyway,
the next category?
People who've had profound influence on us in our family lives.
Okay.
And for me, that is probably, and this is going to surprise you, it's probably in our extended family, my grandpa, Emil.
Ooh.
And I think that he's now deceased, but I think that the reason for it is because so many memories that I have that are associated with the senses, like whenever I sip a Dr. Pepper, I immediately am right back in their house on Elysian Fields.
Wow.
Because we spent so much time there.
Yeah.
I still will start humming songs just randomly that he taught me when I was a little kid. And I remember, because obviously our relationship changed as I got older, but a lot of the formative years of my life revolve around memories that have to do with him.
That's beautiful.
Obviously outside of just my immediate family, which is probably the primary influence. It's like I would have to pick him and say that he has given me the most memories from my childhood out of anybody else.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. This one, people are going to be like, "Oh, come on, Todd, that's not fair. You can't use your own mom." But it would be my mother, Lulu, your grandmother. And there's a few reasons. First of all, she always loved having parties.
Yeah.
And she loved social gatherings, and she loved feeding people. And you would think, as someone that might get old, or might look at that and like, come on, why do we always have to have people over and all this kind of stuff? But I personally saw a lot of people who had just an incredible encounter socially in a positive manner because of the things that my mom was doing.
Yeah.
And they would thank her specifically. Louise, thank you so much. I had the time of my life. I mean, that's a phrase that maybe someone's throwing around, but when you're a young kid and you hear that, the time of my life, that's huge. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And that, you should be grateful for this, by the way, because that caused me to desire, how they always say, oh, you're going to marry somebody like your mom.
Yeah.
I desired to marry a woman who really was into hospitality.
Yeah.
And was wanting to feed people and wanting to gather people. And that's your mom. Your mom just loves to feed people. If you come over to our house,
you're going to eat.
Even if you have just had a 7-course meal, you better eat something.
You will.
You better eat something because my wife is going to think that you hate her.
Mm-hmm. Just FYI, if you're ever coming to our house.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's our family members. And then I also was thinking about influencers that I don't really have any personal connection with, but who are very famous and well known in some, either a politician or the arts or whatever, just somebody who's had a profound effect on me. And I was thinking about it. And this is both positive and negative. So this is interesting. So I started listening to the band Need to Breathe when I was in college, even probably late high school. And back then they were just starting out, had only released a couple of records at that point, and were starting to grow in popularity. And they've become very popular now. And the band is led by two brothers, Bear and Bo Reinhardt, or it was until Bo left the band recently. And that's actually part of why this was such a profound influence on me. So the way that I sing, the way that I write songs, the way that I play guitar, even the way that I act on stage when I'm doing a performance is all profoundly influenced by Bear.
Wow.
The way that he conducts himself. I remember before anybody explained to me what it was for a musician to be cool, I knew what it was because Bear had it. And that's why he's the front man in the band. And I think that actually caused a lot of tension, whether or not it was caused directly by their success or whatever, or people's impression of Bear in particular, but it caused a lot of tension between him and his brother. And so the positive parts were that he profoundly influenced me as a musician, as an artist, and I take a lot of the things that I would call parts of my performance directly from his influence. Now, on the flip side, I also see what things not to do, because I think that in his relationship with his brother being so rocky and so full of tension, and the unresolved stuff that's there that we can all see. Like, we don't know the details, obviously, but we can see how much tension there was. I know what not to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know that there are some things that have to be resolved in order for you to have an effective presence as a band or as an artist. You can't hate the other people that are on stage. You just can't.
Yeah.
And if you do, the whole audience can tell that you do.
Yeah.
Right? So I learned some things, both positive and negatively, but I think if I had to pick one artist as a musician that I was most profoundly influenced by, it was Bear.
Wow. Wow.
I hope I get to meet him one day. That would be cool.
That would be super cool.
Because I can tell him all this and try not to be weird about it.
Maybe you'll be opening for him or something. Like
That would be sweet. I would not complain.
That'd be kind of cool. My oldest brother is very eclectic with his musical tastes.
Yeah.
And it had, I think, an incredible positive effect on me when I was growing up, because he introduced me to a lot of artists that I wouldn't have just naturally, become acclimated to at that time, because I was young, and that was back before you had the internet and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of had to be really conscious about the artists that you listen to. And one of the artists that he introduced me to was Peter Gabriel.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought the live set, which I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think it was 4 records at that time. But I wore them out. I mean, I played them all the time. And then I made tapes of them. That's how old I am. I made cassette tapes of them and played them in the car, and just constantly was listening to it, and I would crank it. I mean, absolutely crank it.
Yeah.
And it just had an effect on me to desire things that were well done, to desire things that, in my mind, that were beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it kind of instilled in me that desire for quality, goodness. It wasn't pop, quote unquote, music. I know later on, sometimes he got a couple hits that were on the top 40, but the majority of his stuff was kind of in the fringe.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it pop, except for those couple of songs you're talking about.
Right, Sledgehammer and some of those other ones.
Salisbury Hill probably was really popular.
No, that was still kind of pretty fringe.
Well, that was late 70s.
Yeah.
That type of music was pretty popular then.
Yeah, but it just had a huge effect on me. So I think about that. I go back in time and I think you start connecting the dots. And you look at that, like, had he not done that, then I don't know if I ever really would have been introduced to him as an artist and listened to a lot of that stuff. I mean, man, I remember pulling into the senior parking lot in high school, and got into the spot, and I'm just cranking the song, and I'm closing my eyes, and I'm singing at the top of my lungs, and then it gets over, and I open my eyes, and a bunch of people are looking at me in the parking lot, and they're just laughing their heads off. And they're like, geez, Todd, you were like, it was like you didn't even know that anything was going on in the world. I'm like, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. There was nothing else
like you
going
wish you
on
could enjoy music
in
this
the world.
much.
Yeah, right. To get to that place.
Yeah.
But what do you think about nowadays, where a lot of people do say, we're joking about that, like an Instagram influencer?
Oh, yeah. So I think that the meaning of the word has completely changed in the social media age. And I think there's some problems with that. So first of all, there's the idea that everybody is influenced by everyone, right?
Agreed.
So there's all kinds, there's this web of connections that everybody has with people that they are drawing aspects of their personality from, and getting the things that they believe and think from a lot of the people in their lives. And this is different for everybody in terms of how much of their personality is because of outside influence.
Right.
But I think there's a whole generation of people that are younger than me who are being profoundly influenced by figures who we would call influencers on social media, much more than anybody in my generation or your generation.
Why? Well, why do you think they're so receptive to it?
Because they're so accessible. Like, think about how inaccessible. Like, what were the chances that you would get to see Peter Gabriel live more than once in a year?
No, none.
Zero.
Yeah,
right?
zero. Yeah.
That would be impossible. So
right. And he wasn't going to be on television, and there was no internet.
Exactly. So they're really, like, you had this understanding of who Peter Gabriel was as an artist, and his influence on you was relegated to listening to his records for the most part.
Yes.
Right? So
a poster. And then
think about my generation. So YouTube was just starting to become a thing when I was growing up. And that was a new way that you could interact with artists because you could watch their music videos, kind of like you could on MTV in the 80s when that first started. But I had constant access to that as long as I had the internet and my laptop.
Wow.
And so because of that, I could be much more profoundly influenced by Need to Breathe, for example. If I'm looking at the band that I was talking about, I could go and watch any of their music videos whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
So now here's the big change. Bands and artists, especially young artists, are so accessible that they interact with their fans on a regular basis on social media platforms with just random people who are fans of theirs. So Justin Bieber doing the whole during the whole pandemic shutdown was doing these Instagram live videos where hundreds of thousands of people would be watching, and he can just go through the list and select somebody to be in the video with him. And he was doing that with dozens and dozens of people. And these videos were getting very popular because everybody wanted to be in the video and talk to Justin for a minute. Think about how accessible artists are now in comparison to even 15 years ago.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. And it's happening.
So just randomly, he would just
go
up,
through,
boom, just
swipe
hit
up, pick somebody, and they're in the video, and they can see Justin Bieber, and he can talk to them.
Okay, that's freaky weird.
It's cool.
I think it's cool.
I think it's cool too. But my point is that people have so much more access to whoever you would call an influencer nowadays that you can be much more influenced by your relationship with them. Because even if you don't ever get to actually be in Justin Bieber's video, you know that you potentially could.
Should we then kind of caution ourselves on how we allow others to influence? Because think about this. Like even on a minor thing, whenever I'm buying something online, I love reading the reviews.
Yeah.
And I don't know these people. I don't know these people from Adam, but I like reading the reviews, and I'm even more interested in the 2 and 3 star, not the 5 star,
right,
not the 1.
You want to see what people's complaints were.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And that's fair. That's another way that you interact with people. But if we're talking about influencers specifically, we're talking about people who you have a reason to want to know what they think about things.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So reviewers, that's one thing, but you're not interested in the person. You're interested in what they had to say about the product.
True.
With people on Instagram who you would call influencers, you're interested not just in what they think and say and do, but your life, especially if you're a young person, is going to be molded by this. Like, do you know how often I have kids in my youth group come and say, oh my gosh, like this person on Instagram, or nowadays it's on TikTok, this person on TikTok, she was wearing this new outfit that I've never seen before, and I have to go buy it immediately. Now, you might say that's not that different from people's experience of seeing a celebrity in a movie in the 80s or 90s and dressing the same way.
I never ran out to buy an outfit.
Maybe you didn't, but a lot of people did. That's the reason why fashion changed so much over the course of those 2 decades, right? Because it's influenced. It's influenced by influencers.
We should bring back the fringe, the leather fringe.
Yeah, please no.
On the jackets.
Nope.
Yes, baby.
Nope.
Yes.
I'm going to disagree with you there. It's going to be a no from me, dog. But my point is that it's the accessibility that's changing things. It's not the fact that influencers exist. It might seem like there are more of them, but it's just that you can only, if you get 100,000 followers on Instagram, that's a relatively small number of people that care what you think. But it also means that they can interact with you, and they have a much higher chance of actually interacting with you if they follow you.
Wow. Yeah, man, things have really changed.
Yes, they have.
That's crazy.
I think that it's important to have to understand your influences, first of all. And there's we could spend several episodes just talking about the profound ways that we've been influenced by so many people. We're just picking and choosing here. But so you should understand that you are being influenced, and you should.
That's probably the most important one right there.
Yeah, and then you need to understand who is influencing you. And as I've gotten older, that's become more and more important. So.
And then we should then turn it around and think that we are influencing others.
Yeah.
So let's try to do that in the most positive way that we can.
Exactly. And to your point, who knows what this is going to be like in a few years? 10 years from now, we'll probably look back and say, oh, man, it was having all these effects on society that we weren't aware of.
Right.
Because I don't know if it's a total net negative or not. I'm not sure. That remains to be seen.
I'm not even saying that it is.
I'm not saying that you are, but we honestly don't know. Like, no one knows. If somebody is saying, this social media stuff is bad, it's rotting the children's brain. You know, they said the same thing about...
They're not even spelling TikTok correctly.
No, they're not. They said the same thing about video games when gaming was starting to ramp up and get huge. And then they said the same thing about music videos before that.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Who honestly knows what real effect this is going to have on society? It remains to be seen. But everybody needs to be aware that they are being influenced.
Okay, there you go. Hey, do you have a cool thing?
I do, actually. Do you want to go first?
Yes.
I'm curious.
Do we have a song for cool thing?
We do.
I don't remember.
One cool thing. One cool thing. One cool thing.
I got to give credit where credit is due because I was like, I need a cool thing for the podcast. And Lizzie was there.
Oh.
She helped me with this one.
Oh, no. You're going to beat me.
Oh, this is really, really cool.
Okay.
She shows me a video, and it's competitive tag.
Oh, I know about this.
So it's the small little thing
that is cool.
with all of these obstacles and ramps and things to jump over and slide under, and they're like 3, 2, 1, and the guy jumps out there, and it's just one-on-one tag,
and
baby.
you have 20 seconds to tag him.
Yes. So
Yeah,
you're trying to get away from him.
You score points by evasions. See, I know more about this than you do.
And it's cool.
Yeah, it's called World Chase Tag, WCT. And there are leagues, and it's extremely competitive. It's been happening for several years now.
And it's super cool.
It is. It's awesome. Man, that is a cool thing.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Lizzie. I love you.
Mine is a food thing. Mosquito. That's right.
That's a food thing as a mosquito?
No, I just killed a mosquito.
Okay.
So McDonald's fries. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. They're kind of my guilty pleasure and my wife's guilty pleasure. So sometimes after a date, if we go out and we get some food, we will sometimes go and get McDonald's fries because they're amazing.
You know what Lulu used to do?
What?
She would always order them without salt.
Really?
Because she'd know that they would have to make them fresh, and then she would salt them. So they always came out piping hot.
That seems bougie.
It seems bougie, but you remember, she would microwave her meal in the middle of dinner.
Yeah, so
that's my mom.
She liked it hot.
Oh, she liked it to where it would melt the fork.
So McDonald's fries taste pretty good right now, but apparently they used to taste a lot better. And
I will tell you that they did.
Yeah, and do you know why?
I read a story on this.
Do you know what it was?
It was like lard or
something.
Something.
So they changed the recipe, and they changed the recipe because there was this study that came out that said that the particular fat that they were using to cook the fries in, which was lard, it was animal fat, had this really high content of fats and things that weren't good for you, and
triglycerides.
Yeah. And so they made McDonald's made the decision to completely change their recipe, and the fries are still good, but they're not nearly as good as they used to be. And then now, years later, it's come out that there really was never an issue. And
are they going back?
Well, no, they're not.
Why
At least
not?
They don't have any plans to right now, because there's still this public perception that if you cook your fries in lard, that it's not healthy. Which, by the way, if you're going to McDonald's, that shouldn't matter.
Exactly.
That shouldn't matter at all. It's like you're already going to get fast food at the grossest place. Well, maybe not the grossest place, but you know what I mean?
I'm a pretty healthy guy, okay? And I make a lot of health choices, but when you don't want to make a health choice, you go to places like McDonald's. Or another thing that really irritates me is that they stopped using coconut oil when they make popcorn in the movie theaters.
Seriously?
Same reason, where they're like, oh, it's got too much high fats. And I know in the comments there's going to be some PhD that's going to be like, Todd, you're killing yourself if you do that. Well, you know what? You know you are.
Do all PhDs talk like that?
And it's delicious. Well, they're all smart, so they all do.
Well, actually, yeah.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring it back.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share, like,
Do the things.
And possibly become a patron.
Maybe.
Down in the description.
$5 a month. One extra episode a week.
And you get the bonus episode. The next bonus episode is Stefan and I were going to be sharing if we were stranded on a desert island, what is the one thing that each one of us would want to bring with us?
And why?
Dun, dun, dun.
It's a deeper topic than you would think.
Dun, 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 dun. Thanks so much for listening to Pater Familias.
We appreciate y'all.